the cat. Good morning and good evening for those in the US. Thank you for joining us at VMV Hypoallergenics Skin Sites is what I'm calling it for now. If you have any questions, we're going to be talking about sunscreens today. Just type them up in the comments and we'll do our best to get to them. But before that, let me introduce a little bit about us. My name is Laura. I'm the CEO at VMV, and this is actually my mom.
Hello.
She's our founding.
Hello, everybody.
She's our founding dermatologist and dermatopathologist, and she's our. Someone's coming in the room. Hi, come in.
Hi, sorry.
That's all right. Clearly, very chill, doing this at home in the quarantine. Well, hi, say hi.
Hi.
That's my daughter. Anyway, so my mom's going to be answering questions. She's a dermatologist, dermatopathologist, as I said, and big brain, mega clinician, mega researcher, multi-published, etc. So she actually won't be talking a lot about brand. She'll be talking about science and clinical dermatology and stuff. And the topic today is sunscreens, but specifically using sunscreens indoors, since that's where most of us are at this point in the world. Yeah, that's how we're doing. Ask any questions if you have them. And there, we can start actually with the first question that we get all the time, which is, do we actually need sunscreen when we're just indoors?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
daily.
All right, but
Nice.
why?
The reason for that is that, to start off, it really shouldn't be called a sunscreen anymore. It should be called a sun and light screen, because like I've written about, the electromagnetic radiation coming out of the sun consists of UVB, UVA, visible light, infrared. Those are the four that are the toughest, plus the heat, of course, that's generated by these radiations. But they are emitted by the sun, but you know, since we're all indoors nowadays, we must remember we have much more of the visible light indoors. So it's really visible light protection as well.
So what's visible light though? Because I think when I've tried to talk about visible light less eloquently, people have been like, I mean, I see stuff, so that must be visible light. What is visible light?
Visible light is the range in that electromagnetic spectrum that gives us the lighting. And you have everything starting from after the UVA, the colors. That's why we see things, because of the colors that it generates. And at a certain point, it becomes just white, right?
Right.
So it goes from about the violet to the blue rays, then to the green, and then to the yellow and red.
So this
This
is
is
what
all part
allows
of
us to
visible light.
see, basically.
Yes, this is what we see, actually.
Okay.
Right.
And is that blue light? Because a big question now everyone's asking. Everyone's stuck indoors, right? I mean, most of us, some people have to go to work, and God bless you and keep you safe, everyone. But for those of us that have to stay home, most of us are either working on our gadgets,
Right.
or we're just binging on the phone, or on laptops, or on tablets. That everyone calls that blue light.
Right.
Is that visible light? Is it another kind of light?
That's all part of visible light.
It's all part of visible light.
But the blue light is more into, the range of visible light is from 400 to 760 nanometers. This is, think of light as being in electromagnetic radiation as in wavelengths of energy. And the one that is the UV are the short and therefore more intense, and they make you burn when you're out in the sun.
Okay.
UVA is cooler, it's longer wavelengths, and so it doesn't just stay on the surface like the UVB or hit the epidermis, but it goes down into the dermis. And the thing about the UVA is that it has been shown in so many studies already that it could actually be worse than the UVB over
right.
time, because it goes deeper into the dermis and therefore can produce more aging, and then eventually into cancer, helps into the cancer production.
Okay.
The interesting thing about
Let me back up to make sure that we're catching all that you're saying, because I grew up with you and I'm used to this. But I'm not sure if a lot of our viewers out there are catching this. So if I can do a quick recap, right?
Okay.
By the way, hi Tor. One of our V&V brand ambassadors is online. Fabulous makeup artist, Tor Torre. Catch him up. So brief recap. You do need sunscreen even if you're stuck indoors all day. And the reason for that is that you're not just worried about UVB and UVA, which is primarily from the sun. UVA, I think, is also in indoor lights, right? You're also worried about something called visible light, which is also damaging to skin, and blue light, which comes from our phones, tablets, laptops, that is also part of the visible light spectrum. And Doctora here, mom, just got finished explaining the different types of damage that we can expect from UVB, UVA, and visible light, right? So far, that's where we are. Let me go through another question here. Yeah, so, oh, hold on 1 second. We have another question that I don't want to miss. Hold on. What SPF is adequate to apply at home, from Jean Catherine?
SPF just indicates that when that particular sunscreen was tested in the laboratory, what they did was they elicited what's called the minimal erythema dose. That's the first dose of the UVB. So this is a measure of UVB that produced the redness on the skin. Having taken that dose, let's say it's at 10 minutes, right? So what they do therefore is they multiply that by the...
Okay, we're back on, we think. Let us know if you're not hearing us or seeing us. We can't seem to get through this one answer. So again, in recap, yes, you need sunscreen indoors. You're looking at protection against UVB for outdoors, UVA outdoors and indoor light, and visible light indoors, which yes, does include blue light, because we keep getting that question. We're still getting it now. Blue light, phones, tablets, laptops, screens, yes. Is blue light, yes, is in the spectrum of visible light, and yes, you need sunscreen to protect against that. In terms of what SPF we need for indoor light protection, my mom here was just in the middle of saying that it's not necessarily about the SPF. You need broad spectrum protection.
Right. You have to look for that term, broad spectrum, because the regulations practically of the whole world on sunscreens now is that a broad spectrum sunscreen should protect against UVB, and that's with the SPF number. And I tell you, anything above 30 is really too much, because you don't normally stay out in the sun 30 times your minimal erythema dose is what it's called. So a 30 plus is fine, and then but you have to look for the UVA PF, because that's the one that's indoors, and the UVA PF should be about a third of the SPF. So if you got a 30, then you're looking for a 10. And higher than that, a 10 or more will be okay. And then what we don't have yet in our sunscreens is what we should be calling visible light protection factor. The visible light protection factor.
I'm going to say what most sunscreens don't have, because you have actually done studies on sunscreens and visible light. So we actually have that. That's okay. But yeah, a lot of sunscreens don't test for visible light yet. But what you need to be looking, if I heard you correctly, is if you're looking for a sunscreen for indoor use, it's less about the SPF, and it's more about broad spectrum, UVA, and if you can find a sunscreen that is specifically tested for visible light, then that is the sunscreen to go for indoor use. Because again, to recap, you do need it for indoors because of visible light, and yes, because of your phone and your tablet and your laptop, which is blue light, which is in the spectrum of visible light, for sure.
May I add?
Yes.
For visible light protection, in the meantime, that our sunscreens that are available out there that you can buy from the marketplace, because they don't say visible light protection, what you can look for therefore is always read the labels and look for ingredients. And if the ingredients put zinc oxide and titanium dioxide a little bit higher up, and not all the way down in the bottom of the label, the ingredients label. Look for that because zinc and titanium dioxide are large molecules, and in a sense they are like barriers, and they can therefore protect against visible light. And in addition to that, I've done several studies on this. One of them was published way back in, believe it or not, 1999 or 2000. And basically what that talked about was that if you layer your sunscreen, your makeup, the products that you use in your face that have color, the iron oxide there will also help in protecting you against visible light. So in other words, that would be something like you put on a base makeup, you put on a liquid foundation, you put on some other colorant, the blusher, the contouring, the camouflaging, and all that, and put those on the place that you would normally darken readily, which is right in the middle of the face because you're reading your iPad or computer or tablet with right in the middle.
Okay. So I know she likes the concept of layering very, very much. And I know I get told all the time, remember to remind people to layer, layer, layer. So let me just double down on that a little because it's also important indoors. Here's the thing about indoor light damage, with visible light in particular. One of the bigger dangers is hyperpigmentation, which if you're mixed race like I am, or Filipino, darker skin tone, medium to darker skin tone, it's a real, real issue for us. These are dark blotches and spots that tend to happen, but even lighter skin tones, particularly if they're mixed, I'm pretty pale. You know, I'm a pale, pale brown girl. I get hyperpigmentations. And a lot of that is from the laptop, the phone, computer screens, tablets, etc. So the sunscreen is important. I'm actually layering right now. I'm using a physical sunscreen, more correctly called an inorganic sunscreen. And then I actually put a bronzing powder on, some blush, and concealer because I have a really serious dark spot that's over there that I'm trying to get rid of.
Okay.
So
we so far have been talking about normal skin, and then beginning into the hyperpigmentations and the melasma and the thing that occur on skin, of brown skin, the skin with pigment, either very dark,
melanated, various degrees.
Yeah, anywhere from light brown to dark brown. We must remember that in this day and age where everybody's so worried about the COVID organism, there's a lot of chemicals being used to kill germs. And one of them is chlorine, which is a very photosensitizing chemical. Mm-hmm. And so because of photosensitivity indoors, visible light acts on that chemical on your skin and can, in any color skin, from whitest white to darkest dark, will develop erythema. And so therefore people who are prone to rosacea.
Erythema is redness.
You will notice that your skin may be becoming reddish and you're wondering why, Well, that might be a reaction to the chlorine and to the other kinds of chemicals that are present, disinfectants that are present, not just on your skin that you're using as an antiseptic, but airborne, because these chemicals are airborne.
Right.
So you get exposed to them in minutiae, but cumulatively it can then make your skin become flushed and red.
Okay.
I'm not yet done. Beyond that, then, you can develop actually acne. And so you're wondering, you're an adult now. Why is adult acne so prevalent nowadays, right? You're an adult, you're no longer a teenager, and voila.
Okay.
Acne.
All right. I got a few questions here, so we're going to address a few at a time because there's a lot to unpack there, and we'll go through that again because I think it's really important. So number one, we have a question from Jean Catherine. How do you avoid the stickiness when layering, or is there no escaping it? Okay, me personally, so first of all, it depends on the products that you're using, if they're sticky or not, right? And I can't really talk about this when she's here, but, DM me or VMV separately, but we do have products that are not sticky. But me personally, what I use is a thick titanium dioxide, zinc oxide product. And then I actually put virgin coconut oil after, and I spread that on, and then I do the bronzer and the blush. And for me, I don't find it particularly sticky. I don't think I look particularly shiny. Maybe you guys can confirm. But that's what I do. I think it really primarily depends on the product that you're layering with. The stickier, the heavier, it's going to be an issue. Then we have another question from Nature Lova in Singapore. Apart from sunscreen, any difference or emphasis in our skincare regime? And I think this is a great question.
Connected. There's a follow-up.
I have a follow-up question.
It's part of it.
Oh, given that we are home all the time. Okay, so I think that's a great question to kind of unpack everything that my mom just discussed here, which is, regardless of your skin tone, extremely pale, extremely dark, or deep, when we're stuck indoors, there's a few things that are happening. Number one, we're exposed to blue light a lot through our tablets, our phones, our laptops, so we do need sunscreen. But number two, because of the whole COVID pandemic, we are, rightfully so, disinfecting a lot. The thing, though, about a lot of disinfecting chemicals, which are important and we need them, is that they waft up. And they're minute particles, right?
Yeah, right.
And they can cause airborne contact dermatitis. They can cause redness and rosacea. They can cause rashes and itchiness. They might even cause nasal and bronchial problems.
Asthma-like.
Asthma-like, and they can cause acne. So when you're stuck indoors and you're worried about sunscreen, that's great. But you do have to prioritize gentler skincare in general. The less allergens that you're exposed to, because remember, every day that you're disinfecting, that's a lot of exposure to irritants or allergens, right? And they can waft up and everything. So you want the rest of you, from hair care to skin care to makeup to sunscreen, to be as allergen and irritant free as possible. This will help you as much as possible prevent some of the issues that we're seeing with constant disinfection.
Okay. The next thing that I will bring out now is that the other longer wavelength still of electromagnetic radiation is called infrared. Again, this time it's not visible. So we went from the non-visible radiations of UVB, UVA, then the whole spectrum of visible light by which we see people. Mm-hmm. And then now we go again into a non-visible radiation called infrared. You feel it, and boy do you feel it, because when you're cooking indoors, and many of my friends tend to be cooking, experimenting, doing a lot of cooking in there. That's infrared radiation, folks. And you have another one, you generate heat as well. So infrared and heat, they are equally bad on the skin. As a matter of fact, one of the more of the studies beyond UVB and UVA actually was on infrared, because they found out in skin biopsies and examination of the skin molecularly that infrared is actually more damaging to the skin than even visible light.
Okay, let me double down on that a little then. For all of you all who are being wonderful and motivated and inspiring cooks, I am here looking at my family and so grateful that they're just like experimenting in the kitchen and making us extremely happy, because I don't cook, I do cocktails. Nonetheless, for those of you who are being motivated and inspired and cooking a lot and trying new things in the kitchen, yeah, wear the sunscreen, because as the Flora said, infrared is as damaging, maybe even more so, maybe deeper if I heard you right. Mm-hmm. And a top tip here, certain ingredients that are natural like garlic will waft up, and it's a top photoallergen. So it'll double up the potential for hyperpigmentation. Yes, I listen. We have a nice question here from Pinky Lapus about, some say VCO clogs pores, but I still use no oil. You should still use virgin coconut oil. Virgin coconut oil does not clog pores. And this is going to be a test. She's going to confirm this. The first studies that showed comedogenicity of coconut oil, they were done on rabbit ears years and years ago. And they've since been disproven by newer studies, right? By Dr. Drelos, etc., who were doing acnogenic and comedogenic studies on human skin in actual use, if I'm not mistaken. You wanna expand
Yes.
on that?
And then we follow the methodology of Dr. Drailers and Dr. Katambay. Nilo, I hope you're around. Dr. Nilo Katambay, several years ago, did a study on comedogenicity. It was very well done. The problem was that we only did it in 7 or 8 patients, but it was amazing to show coconut oil was not comedogenic at all. Let me just tell you how difficult this study was, in the sense that Nilo was doing the Drailos method, and every day he would be doing things like applying the oil on the skin, observing and all that, and this went on and on and on. And I tell you, it was not comedogenic at all. There were, in fact, some other oils that you think are very nice and safe. I'm not going to tell you about that here. I'm not going to bring down any of those things, but coconut oil was absolutely non-comedogenic. And lastly, I use coconut oil in patient care. And so the patients I normally see are really very severely damaged already by steroids or rosacea or photocontact or contact dermatitis and have acne or whatever. I use coconut oil to bring down that inflammation. I use it cold when it's like a white butter from the bottle. And I tell them to go and use bottled water and not water from the sink, from the tap, because most of that is usually chlorinated. There's a bit of chlorine in the water in the tap. So to get rid of that, I ask them to use cold water from the refrigerator, put it on a towel, a face towel that has also been washed in the same way, just with bottled water. Soak it in the cold water, and then first coconut oil that's like a butter in the face, and then a compress with that. Voila! In such a short time, they look terrific.
If you are,
cool down.
Yeah, if you're also a health worker or frontliner and you're starting to experience certain problems, it's a great way to help try to repair the barrier of the skin. We have one more question here. We're going to be signing off soon, so I want to make sure I get it. Hi, Jackie, who was on our team before. What are physical and chemical sunscreens? Can breastfeeding moms use chemical sunscreens? I'll start with a stab at this. There's a bit of a misnomer there. People tend to say physical or mineral sunscreens versus, quote, chemical sunscreen. It's all chemical. I mean, water is H2O. Everything in life around us has a chemical signature, so there's no such thing as something that's not chemical. The more correct terms are inorganic and organic. Organic in this sense does not mean fresh from the farm. So it's not picking up a sunscreen that says organic certification. It means a different type of sunscreen ingredient. In terms of safety for breastfeeding moms, what do you think?
For breastfeeding moms, I would highly encourage the use of inorganic sunscreens, and not the organic ones.
It stays on the surface of the skin.
This year, February, the US FDA made a ruling about all of these chemicals that we're using in sunscreens to be re-examined, simply because there are questions about them. We have found out that many of those chemicals, as long as there are the larger molecules that's associated with them, they tend to really just stay on the surface of the skin and do not get absorbed.
Right.
So use the broad spectrum sunscreen, bottom line, because this is the last question, right?
Yeah.
Bottom line, therefore, is when you're indoors a lot, use the broad spectrum sunscreens, but look for a light protecting, the light protection part of it.
Yeah.
And look always for a higher level of labeling for the zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. And lastly, layer on as well. Very lightly. By the way, last thing that comes to me, most people tend to think that when I prescribe products to them, that they have to put it on thickly so that they really see it as a layer of thickness in the skin. No, it's not. Even coconut oil, I tell them, put a little bit and massage it thoroughly into the skin.
Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to show people what she means. So I'm actually wearing a product I'm going to put on, and I have this on right now, but I'm not particularly pale because I put on the bronzer after. First, when I put it on, I then apply virgin coconut oil and I spread it in really well so you just don't see it. But when this product first, I don't think you'll be able to see it actually, when it first goes on, it's quite thick.
Very good.
But as long as you keep, I have virgin coconut oil in my hands now too. As long as you keep massaging it, it goes away. Here's the funny thing though. How I really look when I work from home, just gonna, how I really look, because here's the thing. My setup in my work from home thing is I have a window right here. So my pigmentation here is much, much worse. I have a concealer now that you don't, so you can't really see it. But if you indulge me for 1 second, I'm actually gonna take it out so you can see what I mean. Virgin coconut oil in this house, I mean, really, it's everywhere. So you throw a rock and you'll see it. So I have a really big hyperpigmentation spot right there.
Yeah.
So every day, I mean, you won't see it because it's too far, but every day I apply this right there, and just so I don't look too ridiculous, I do it on both sides. But this is how I look when I'm at home. And I figure it's okay because I'm at home. When I'm on a Zoom call, I might take that off and concealer it and layer. But this is how I am because I'm actively trying to treat a dark spot that's on my cheek. I'm gonna end this because she actually has a lot of research to do, guys. But to our cottage house, I am so thankful my dermatologist recommended you guys. Your products have saved me. Tips on rosacea. We'll take this last one because I want to say thank you for that kind comment. We already love your dermatologist and we hope you're doing well. Tips on rosacea. It's an inflammatory condition. So first thing to prioritize is less allergens, less irritants, less triggers in general. Anything else? On rosacea.
On rosacea. Oh.
Sunscreen.
I have a fantastic ingredient I really love. It's called azellyl diglycinate. Do I have time to say this? Azellyl diglycinate is a salt of azelaic acid. Azelaic acid is the chemical that is present in a number of products out there that are used for rosacea. Dr. Gallo in University of San Diego, California, San Diego,
research,
did
yeah.
a fantastic research. I love it. The fact that back in the 80s and 90s, I was doing a lot of studies, clinical, on azelaic acid products. Comes 2010, 20, whatever, 15, Dr. Gallo, who's a fantastic immunologist in San Diego, said this is one of the first products I ever know where studies were first done in the clinics. Some of those were mine. And it's only now that we're doing the basic studies. So it's from the bench that we're doing. And he showed that azelaic acid is one of those chemicals that capture the chemicals that are needed to produce innate inflammation, is what it's called, innate immunity response, which is what rosacea is. It's innate quick response to whatever you're sensitive to, whether it's to food, to chemicals, or what in the air or whatever. The point is that azelaic acid is so irritating. I know, I did a lot of clinical studies on it. So therefore, when I found out that there was a salt called azellyl diglycinate, I captured that and made it into something that at first I compounded in my clinic, in my pharmacy, in the pharmacy at our clinic, and then use it on the patient. Voila! The redness disappears very quickly. But they have to continue it for at least a year, several months to a year or so, before it then becomes the rosacea practically disappears. Of course, you have to protect yourself still with sunscreens and light screens and all that.
Okay, so
did I go?
I mean,
sorry
this
about
is
that.
why you're here, because this is the kind of stuff that's harder to learn, right? In sort of, I don't know, Google world or whatever. So, nice thing to remember when you have rosacea, potassium azellyl diglycinate, excellent anti-inflammatory. Other possible contributing factors to rosacea would be heat, stress, spicy foods, Demodex
hormones
is a kind of mite, hormones, right?
Helicobacter pylori.
It really is, you need to talk to your dermatologist and work closely with them. But do be wary because a lot of products made for calming down rosacea, skin with rosacea, contains steroids. Not a great thing to use daily. We can get into that in another session. And contains allergens, oddly enough. A lot of sort of natural botanicals are allergens and they won't necessarily help rosacea prevent inflammation. So you're looking at allergen-free, irritant-free, calming, anti-inflammatory, potassium azellyl diglycinate, virgin coconut oil, and monolaurin. Yes.
Bottom line, after
I'm
having
sweating
heard,
already.
after
It's
having
a lot.
heard all of these, bottom line for me is read labels.
Yeah.
You really have to read the labels of products.
And we
you're
can
going to
help
use.
with that. DM VMV Hypoallergenics. We can, if you have a patch test and you have your results, you can DM us or email us from our website or write us a PM on Facebook. Let us know your patch test results and we can customize recommendations based specifically on your allergens. And we can help you read labels because I know it's hard. One last question and then we gotta go because she's gotta get back to work, which is how often should sunblocks be reapplied? If you're outdoors, I know it is once every hour or two after you get out from swimming, after toweling off and sweating a lot. Indoors.
Indoors, I would put it in the morning. Then, depending upon how you excuse me, depending upon how often you touch your face, you know, or use a hanky, or have a scarf, depending upon that, retouch it. You know, not much of that will come off with just the hands anyway. Unlike the water when you go out and all of the physical activities that we do outdoors. Indoors, there's not much of the physical activity except your floating hand that touches your face. So it depends upon your habit of touching and wiping and whatever your face, that you retouch it. But I would suggest it still be done twice a day. In the morning and then a real good retouch in the afternoon, because many of you stay up until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning anyway on the tablet or the computer and whatever. And that still has to be protected against the monitors.
Okay, so thank you.
You are welcome.
I had to convince her to do this. This is a thing, so this is very much a labor of love. She is loaded with research, so there's a lot of great stuff that's coming out in derm in the time
And coconut
of
oil.
and coconut oil.
So exciting.
Okay, VMV Hypoallergenics will be doing live streams like this on skin sites with other guests, not necessarily with just us all the time, and expert resource experts here on Instagram at VMV Hypoallergenics. This will be next week moving forward, every Friday morning, 9 a.m. Manila, which is Thursday evening, 9 p.m. EST. This is all starting next week on May 8th. So make sure you follow VMV Hypoallergenics. And if you have any questions whatsoever, you can DM us here on Insta. I mean, we're all over the place. Facebook. In the Philippines, it's vmvhypoallergenics.ph. Everywhere else, it's .com. But drop us questions. Prepare your questions for our next live stream. And thank you guys for attending. This is my mom. She's very cool. Bye.
Bye.